Right, family. Glad to be back with y'all. Hope you've had a fantastic week. Happy Friday Eve. Excuse me. Make sure my mic working. All right, family. Let's see what's going on. All right. Testing. All right, we good. We in business. What's up, Facebox? So delayed. Again, happy to be back with you. Happy Friday Eve. I hope you have had a fantastic week. It's been a good week for me. Pretty quiet. Had some good meetings on Monday, and I felt like a good show on Tuesday. I'm struggling to get through those generational curses. Not necessarily struggling to get through them, but there are a lot of them that we can name. So, and I have intentions on going about 10 of them on Tuesday, but get to talking to them, we only get through like 3 or 4. Anyway, if you're new here, it's Soul Swami Live, where we discuss all things healing in various formats, whether it's books, whether it's conversations, lessons, homework, live energy readings. And tonight is Thursday night is our book club, which is a spinoff of our Tuesday night show, which is all about healing. Book club is supposed to be for an attempt for us to reconnect to that child in us, and for us to, by having somebody read to us. Like, most kids like somebody to read to them. They'll go crazy. Okay. I don't know if my socks. Anyway, they'll go crazy about somebody reading to them. Beginning of every show, we generally do some energy work. And this week we are on our throat. The throat is the chakra we're working with. And your throat is good for your authenticity. Make sure you're being true to yourself. Your communication, being able to say the things you feel and think. That word feeling is funny. Expression, how you express yourself, whether it's through fashion, all types of things, and your truth. Speaking it. If you are into essential oils, you want to think chamomile, peppermint, cypress, bergamot. The color for your throat is light blue, hence the tint to the lighting on tonight. The element is ether. If you are into crystals, you want to think along the line of aquamarine, turquoise. I need to find my turquoise ring. Blue lace, and things like that. So we start off with some bowl sound, little sound therapy, and then we do a breathing exercise. We did 478 earlier. I think we want to bust around and do 369. That sounds good to me. 369. Boop, 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 boop. But right now, we'll start off with a little bowl. I'll be comfortable. You in the way, bro? I think for our breathing exercise, we'll do some 369. All you have to do is just focus on your breathing. I'll keep the count for you. If you are unfamiliar, we're going to breathe. Hold for 3. And release. Breathe in, hold for 6. Release. And then do the same with 9. After that, we'll do some affirmations. We'll combine the visualization with the affirmation. Keep it a little simple for us tonight. So on the count of 3, we will start our breathing exercises. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in deep. Hold for 3, 2, 3, and release. Breathe in deep. Hold for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Release. Breathe in deep. Hold for 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Release. Breathe in deep. Hold for 3, 2, 3. Release. Breathe in deep. Hold for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Release. Breathe in deep. Hold for 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Last cycle, family. Breathe in deep. Hold for 3, 2, 3. Release. Breathe in deep. Hold for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Release. Breathe in deep. Hold for 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Release. And with your eyes closed, we're going to do some affirmations. But I want you to imagine that you can see the energy around you that's close to your body, within the distance of your aura. And with your hands, I want you to push energy where you need it to go. You want to push off negative energy. Bring in positive energy. Push off confusion. Bring in clarity. And with every deep breath, I want you to intentionally focus on what energy you want to remove and what energy you want to bring in, and repeat these affirmations after me. Breathe in deep. I speak and hear the truth. Breathe in deep. I communicate honestly. Breathe in deep. I live an authentic life. Breathe in deep. I am fearless and free. Breathe in deep. I trust what I have to say. All right, family, we're going to get started on our book. We're gonna start a new book tonight. I knew it was gonna happen, and I didn't check. Well, I thought I did good, but I didn't. I didn't check. So for Makes Me Wanna Holla, we are on the last chapter, and I've been reading the Aquarian Gospels of Jesus. And I thought about reading that to y'all, but we'll save that for some other time. So tonight we're gonna finish up Makes Me Wanna Holla, and then we're gonna start Lucretia and the Kroons by Victor Lavalle. Chapter 44, Choices. I wish there were more successes like my road to point to. I wish somehow brothers everywhere would reach down deep and summon the will to defy the inner hatred driving the self-destructive. But everywhere I can see them giving in, and I am reminded of it especially when I go home. Sure, there are some of the old crew who are doing all right. Greg kicked his drug habit, got married, and is living clean. Ton, the high school football great and heavyweight thumper, is a Navy chaplain now. Shell Shock works at the shipyard. My brother Dwight got married and settled down. Turkey is hanging. Once he was hustling, now he's got a real job. Nutbrain got married and is giving it a real shot on the straight side. Nate, he said in a recent phone call, I've been working for a year. Ain't that strange? And me, I'm just a tourist in the white mainstream. But ours are the quiet triumphs you seldom hear about. The ones overshadowed by the big, ugly, depressing things. These days, my visits home have become occasions for mourning, soul-searching, and anger. On one visit, I saw a story splashed across the top of the newspaper about a police busting up $20 million narcotics ring. Listed in the article were several people I've known most of my life. I sighed. It wasn't the first time that day I'd been hit with the negative news about the neighborhood, and it wasn't the last. Before the day ended, family members and people I met on the streets told me tale after tale of homeboys, young black men like me, living lives mired in lunacy. Every day in D.C., I read dismal accounts of blacks murdered over trivial drugs, a coat, a pair of sneakers, pocket change. The people in these stories are faceless to me. I perused the accounts with a detached sadness, then turned the page. But in my hometown, the name conjures images of real people who live down the street, around the corner, and on the next block. My trips to the Cavalier Manor provide distressingly close-up view of black America's running tragedy. When I'm there, it dawns on me over and over again that this endangered species thing is no empty phrase. Most of the dudes I grew up with were either in prison, dead, drug zombies, or nickel and dime hustlers. Some are raced full throttle towards self-destruction. Others have already plunged into the abyss. Kenny Banks got life for dealing drugs. Frog got shot at Lincoln Park. Lep just got sprung from a 3-year bid, and Shane was recently sent to prison. He shot a man several times, execution style, and he got life. Of the 10 families living on my street when I was growing up that had young males in their household, 4, including my own, have had one or more of those young men serve time. When I go home, I prepare with pep talk to myself and pledge to focus on the positive, to spend time with my family and old friends who are doing well, and to seek out opportunities to lend compassionate ear to those who are not so well off. I know I will see former buddies, old hoods, hanging on the same corners where I left them years ago. I see in them how far I've come. I'm not sure what they see in me. In exchanges that are sometimes awkward, they recount their hard knocks. I say little about my established job or new life I've found. What should I say? Get a job? Go to college? Adopt my middle-class success strategies? The fact is, I know what they've been through, and I understand what they face. I took the plunge myself many times. Many people are puzzled about the culture of violence pervading black communities. It's so foreign to them. Some wonder if there's something innately wrong with black males. And when all else fails, they reach for the easy response: broken homes, misplaced values, impoverished backgrounds. I can answer with certainty only about myself. My background and those running partners don't fit all those convenient theories, and the problems among us are more complex than something we can throw jobs, social programs, or more policemen at. Shane and I and the others in the loosely knit gang started out like most other kids, yet somewhere between adolescence and adulthood, something inside us changed. Our hearts hardened, and many of us went to share the same fates as the so-called disadvantaged. I'm not exactly sure why, but I've got a good idea. A psychologist friend of mine once explained that our fates are linked partly to how we perceive our choices in life. Looking back, I see that the reality may well have been the possibilities for us were abundant, but in cavalier manner, we perceived our choices as being somewhat limited. When I read about shootings in urban areas and at home, I often flash back to the scenes in which played a part. It's hard for me to believe now I was once very much a part of that world, and harder still sometimes for me to adapt to the one I crossed over into. My new life is still a struggle, harsher in some ways than the one I left. At times I feel suspended in a kind of netherworld, belonging fully to neither to the streets nor to the establishment. I have come to believe two things that might seem contradictory. Some of our worst childhood fears were true. The establishment is teeming with racism. Yet I also believe that whites are as befuddled about race as we are, and they're as scared as us as we are of them. Many of them are seeking solutions just like us. I'm torn by a different kind of anger now. I resent suggestions that black enjoy righteous victims. And when people ask what's wrong with black men, it makes me want to lash out. When I hear that question, I'm reminded of something Malcolm X once said: I have no mercy or compassion in me for a society that will crush people and then penalize them for not being able to stand up under the weight. Sometimes I wonder how that is code. I have no mercy or compassion in me for a society that will crush people and then penalize them for not being able to stand up under the weight. Sometimes I wonder how I endured so many when sometimes I wonder how I endured when so many others were crushed. I was not special. And when I hear the numbing statistics about black men, I often think of the guys I grew up with who were smarter and more talented than me, but will never realize their potential. Nutbrain, a mastermind in the ways of the street, had a kind of a raw intellect that probably could not be gauged in the achievement test. Shane, who was often breezed effortlessly through tests in school, could have done anything he wanted to do in his life had he known what to do. Now he has no choices. When Shane was caught in a police manhunt several years ago, I considered volunteered as a character witness, but dismissed the notion because I knew there was no way to tell this jury what I had been able to articulate to a judge at my own trial. How could I explain our anger and alienation from the rest of the world? Where was our common language? Most people, I'm sure, would regard Shane's fate with the same detachment I feel when reading the crime reports about people I don't know. But I hurt for Shane, who will likely spend the rest of his days behind bars and who must live with the agony of having taken a life. I hurt more for Shane's mother, who has now seen 2 of her 4 sons go to prison. A divorcee, she now delivers papers in a cavalier manner. I saw her recently after she tossed the paper on my parents' doorstep. Her hair had grayed considerably. We hugged and chatted. She seemed proud that I had turned my life around, but I felt guilty and wondered again why I got a second chance and her sons did not. After an awkward silence, I got Shane's prison address from her and said goodbye. I wrote to him and he wrote back. I broke down and cried when I read the letter. Yo, Nate, I'm sorry I ain't get back to you before now. I'm fine and everything's going well with me. I know that you're still doing well. I'm proud of you, Nate. Now I have my mind in the right frame, thinking with this long-term bid of mine. But I did what I did. There was more to it than appeared in the papers. Anyway, I will keep in touch with you from now on. I'm really heavy in the Quran now, and I'm truly a warrior from the spirit within me. I know what and where my life will lead me, and from here on, peace be unto you, brother. Later, Shane. For those who like answers, I have no pithy social formulas to end black on black violence, but I do know that I see a younger, meaner generation out there now, more lost and alienated than we were, and placed even less value on life. We were at least touched by role models. This new bunch is totally estranged from the black mainstream. Crack has taken the drug game to a more lethal level and given young blacks far more economic incentive to opt for the street. I've come to fear that the many things a black man can die from, the first may be rage, his own or someone else's. For that reason, I seldom stick around when I would stop on the block. One day not long ago, I spotted a few familiar faces hanging out on the old haunt, the 7-Eleven. I wheeled into the parking lot, strolled over, and high-fived the guys. I knew. Within moments, I sensed that I was in danger. I felt hostile stares from those I didn't know. I was frightened by these young guys who now controlled my former turf. I eased back into my car and left because I knew this, that if they saw the world as I once did, they believed they had nothing to lose, including life itself. It made me want to holler and throw up both my hands. All right, that's pretty good, but I still think he had a certain level of selfishness inside of him that had him do a lot of things. I don't think he should have divorced his wife. They should have definitely spent a little time in therapy. She was a little thrown off though, so I can understand some of his frustrations, and he definitely turned to statistic because he really wasn't in his children's life except points. I call them the disappearing act fathers. They come and show up, and they come and they show up. They come and they show up. Slap boxing with Jesus. All right, so we're gonna start a new book tonight, and this new book is Lucretia and the Kroons, and it's by Victor Lavalle. We read another book by Victor Lavalle. It was the Ballad of the Black Tom, which was funny because it was like a 5% book, which was interesting. Do, 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 do. Chapter 1. Most 12-year-olds don't know much about death, and that's the way it should be. But a handful get the knowledge too soon. You can see it in their eyes, a sliver of sorrow floating in the iris, visible even at the happiest of times. Those kids have encountered that enemy too soon and will always bear scars. For instance, take Lucretia Gardner, now turning 12 years old and having a party to celebrate. The party is to be held at a 2-bedroom apartment she shares with her mother in Flushing, Queens. 3 of her 4 good friends are invited. The 4th, Sunny, her best friend, couldn't make it because she's at St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis getting yet another treatment for her cancer. Sunny has sent a card, delivered by the despairing grandmother. The note inside reads, "I wish I was with you." Lucretia knows Sunny probably dictated the words and her grandmother wrote them. Sometimes Sunny's hands were so weak she couldn't even hold a pen. Sunny's sickness cast a long shadow that Lucci can't escape. The three girls arrived together, right on time. Noon on a chilly Saturday in November. Because the birthday girl wanted to make an entrance, her mother answered the door. Mom walked Lucretia's guests into the living room where the curtains were drawn open and all the lights were on. Bright balloons had been tied to the backs of the chairs around the dining room table. The words "Happy Birthday" were spelled out in yellow cut-out letters taped to the walls above the couch. The treats had already been set out on the table for the three girls. Without any prodding, picked at a bowl of many candy bars, ignoring the bowl of fruit. Lucci's just putting on her dress, Mom told the girls. She asked after their mothers and fathers and about school. She spoke to each girl, Priya, Monique, and Susan in turn. The girls answered back distractedly. Fine. Everyone and everything was fine. Priya asked politely for a sheet of paper, just as the birthday girl called out from the back. Is everyone here? Yes, yes, her mother shouted as she produced a sheet of paper from the drawer. Priya, whose full name is Priyansha, gave a very faint bob of her head as she accepted the sheet and whispered, "Thank you." Then the girl began folding that paper all kinds of wonky angles, and the two other girls watched as if Priya were performing surgery, then turned their backs to Lucci's mother, the woman already forgotten. Hit play, Lucretia said. Lucretia had put together a playlist on the computer the night before, so mother found it on the screen, clicked play, and turned up the volume of the monitor speakers. As she went to check on her daughter, the first song played. It seemed like an obvious pick. I'm coming up, so you better get this party started. Even the three girls, still mesmerized by Priya and the paper, couldn't help but hum along and sway slightly. Lucretia stood at a large mirror attached to her mother's dresser, on which were three foam mannequin heads. Two had wigs on them. The third head was bald because Lucci's mother was wearing that one, her weekend wig. Her mother had never liked straightening her hair. She kept it in cornrows beneath the wigs because life was just easier that way. There was one wig for work, one for weekends, and one her mother wore out on some evenings when she dressed up and looked attractive. Lucci always thought her mother looked pretty, even without the store-bought hair. But on those evenings, her mother turned the volume up higher. She never told Lucci where she was going or who she was going to see. Lucci understood the woman was going on dates, but since they never talked about them, she never really pictured what that meant. Apparently, it required a special wig. Mom entered the bedroom, sat on the bed, and watched her daughter get ready. Lucretia Gardner had actually turned 12 on Thursday. She would have been happy to have this birthday party with Sunny alone, the two girls giggling over whatever was on the TV, while Lucci fed a few spoonfuls of ice cream cake to her best friend. Because of Sunny's cancer, there wasn't much chance the girls would be running through Flushing Meadows Park like they used to do, settling down on their favorite spot below the humongous steel Unisphere. I wish Sunny was here, Lucci said quietly. Her mother leaned forward and smiled tightly. Lucci could see her mom's reflection in the mirror. It's good for you to spend time with your other friends too, especially now. She'll get better, Lucci said. Her mother nodded, but her smile dropped. Well, when she's back from Tennessee, you can have another party, okay? For now, you're being rude to Priya, Susan, and Monique. Don't keep them waiting. Lucci remained still in front of the mirror. Aren't you glad I invited your other friends? Lucci's mother asked, a little too eager. Yes, Lucci said, but that was a lie. One she told only to make her mother happy. They're all asking for you, Lucci's mother said, though Lucci guessed that was a lie too. Mom reached for her daughter's hand, the one that wouldn't stop patting stray strands of hair. She pulled Lucci close to her and into her lap. "You're nervous?" her mother asked. "No," Lucci lied again. The truth was, Lucci knew something about each of those three girls in the living room. Facts that she'd heard in school and discussed privately with Sonny more than once. Monique had breasts. Lucci didn't have to hear. Alexa, turn off living room lights. Monique had breasts. Lucci didn't have to hear about that. She could see them plainly. Everyone could. But she'd also heard that Susan had pubic hair, and she was 10. And Priya, maybe the most shocking of all, was the first girl in Queens, or at least their class, to have her period. Meanwhile, Lucci was developing a glacial pace. Compared to Priya, Susan, and Monique, she was still a child. The only person maturing more slowly was Sonny, and at least Sonny could blame it on her sickness. Lucci had no good excuse. Those three girls waiting in the living room were blooming, but Lucci still felt like a seed in the mud. Mother and daughter looked at each other's reflection in the mirror. Was her mother thinking the same thing she was? They should cancel this party right now. Probably not. The three foam wig heads watched them both. "Did they ask about me?" Lucci asked. "Of course they did," Lucci's mother said. "They can't wait to see you. And you look beautiful, like an emerald princess." She rubbed Lucci's shoulders lightly. "I better get the cake." Lucci stood up. She smoothed the front of her dress. It was green with ruffles on the top and shoulders. When she slipped it on this morning, the taffeta felt stiff on her skin, and her chest was itchy and tender. She felt a little better in the gown now. She even liked herself in it. From the living room, Lucci and her mother heard the next song start. "Lucky you were born that far away so we both can make fun of the distance." Lucci's mother did a little hip swirl, poorly, in honor of the Shakira song, and Lucci, mortified, grabbed her mother's elbow. "Please don't dance in front of my friends." Her mother put her hands up and said, I won't. Then the mother opened the bedroom door and led the way out. Lucci followed. Their apartment was shaped like a capital H. Lucci's mother bedroom sat at the top left side, and it fed directly into the kitchen. Step out of the kitchen and you found their bathroom just to the right. And at the bottom of this side, Lucci's bedroom. Her door was shut now. It had an orange and blue Mets pennant taped to it. A gift from her older brother Louis to commemorate the team's 2000 National League Championship. It was starting to show its age, but Lucci kept it up. Louis had taken her to one of the games. He was grown up and didn't live with them anymore. She reached out and touched the pennant lightly, trying to calm herself. She could feel her heart banging against her ribs. A small walkway, hardly a walkway, connected this half of the apartment to the other half, and the right side of that H. The right side of the apartment was just one room, a living room and a dining room combined. The space had seemed humongous to Lucci when she was a toddler, like a long runway for her stubby legs, but now it felt tiny. There was a dining room table in the middle of the room, and further up a sofa and a television. At the far end of the room, the top of the H, where 3 windows faced the street. The 3 girls sat in a tight circle on the floor between the dining room table and the sofa. Lucci felt embarrassed that there was so little space for them in there. All 3 girls lived in bigger apartments. Monique and Susan watched Priya, who had a sheet of paper that she'd folded into a flower shape. Little numbers had been written on different flaps of the paper. Priya flicked the paper so it looked like flower petals were opening and closing. All 3 girls counted out loud as the petals moved. 5, 6, 7, 8. They didn't even look up when Lucci's mothers walked in the room. "Ladies," her mom said, wearing an exaggerated smile, May I present the birthday girl, Lucretia Gardner. Mom clapped, and the three girls at least had the good manners to look up from their game. But they all seemed aggravated, as if Lucci and her mother had interrupted them in their homes. Lucci's mother stepped aside, still clapping, a bit too enthusiastically at this point, and Lucci inched forward in her role as birthday girl and emerald princess. She told herself not to throw her arms out. That was too theatrical and embarrassing a gesture. But then she couldn't help herself. She did feel good in the dress after all, and it was her birthday. She raised her hand and flung open her arms, and because the Shakira song was still playing, she even twisted her hips like her mom had done in the bedroom. The star had arrived. But the audience didn't respond to her shine. All three girls watched Lucci for a moment, and then, almost as one, they scanned her green dress from the ruffle down to the hem. Then Priya offered a tight grin and said, "Happy birthday, Lucci." Monique and Susan followed the leader. Same tight grins, same bland birthday wish. And that was it. Lucci dropped her hands as her mother left the living room. "I'm going to get the cake," her mother called with great enthusiasm. "It's a cookie puss." "What?" "I don't know what a cookie puss is." As soon as her mother was gone, the girls looked at each other again and hunched forward over Priya's folded paper game, as if Lucci weren't standing there. Monique whispered, "That's a dress for a 6-year-old. Susan actually looked up at Lucci again, scanned the dress one more time, and nodded her agreement. Priya threw out one hand, mocking Lucci's gesture. "Look, everyone," she said. "It's Princess Broccoli." Oh, they some haters. Lucretia's gardener's stomach dropped. Her cheeks felt hot and her hands trembled. For a moment, the living room fell silent. Then the silence was broken. "You whores can get out my house," Lucci yelled. Lucci's mother walked into the living room with a caramel ice cream cake, a candle in the shape of the number 12 on top. And before she could sing happy birthday song, she witnessed her daughter menacing the girl's hands on her hips, screaming. "Get up and get out," Lucci commanded. Lucci's mother almost dropped the cake. The three girls rose together. They lost their cool demeanors. Even Priya, usually composed and masterful, dropped the toy she'd made. The plucked paper flower fell to the floor. Susan took one step toward the door and inadvertently crushed it. Lucci didn't move aside. The girls had gone around her to reach the front door. Her mother was confused that she didn't know what to do, so she just stood there, balancing the cake in her hands. Lucci couldn't see her mom. Her vision had tunneled. "Walk out the door, whores." "Lucci," her mother finally managed. "What happened? Girls, wait." Lucci's mother tried to step in front of Priya, but Priya frantically stumbled around her and toward the door. The other two girls did the same. Now Lucci stood alone in the living room. Sunlight streamed in from the windows behind her, and to her mother, this made it look like she was actually on fire, burning with rage. "You whores can use the front door. I can throw you whores off the fire escape." "Where did you learn that word?" Lucci's mother shouted. "What happened? I was just gone for a minute." All three girls reached for the apartment door. Lucci's mother still hadn't put the cake down, and poor Cookie Puss was already melting. A few drops of vanilla ice cream fell from the serving tray and landed on the living room carpet behind her like a trail of little white tears. Priya couldn't get the apartment door open fast enough. She unlocked it and leapt into the hallway. The others ran after her. Despite their terror, or maybe because of it, they laughed so loud that the people must have heard them out on the sidewalk. Lucci's mother kicked the door closed with her foot and it slammed. Lucci was already unzipping her dress and kicking it off. She stood there in the living room in a matching pair of green underwear. The dress pooled around her feet, hiding her black patent leather Mary Janes. Someday, very soon, Lucci wouldn't be so willing to stand there nearly naked in front of her mother. But for now, she stood there in an unaware, shivering with anger. She finally pointed at the ice cream cake in her mother's head. Put it in the freezer. I'm saving it for Sonny. I know that's right. They ain't came no part and talk trash. Those are not her other friends. Those are not her friends at all. You dig? It took 2 months before Sonny was back from her treatment and ready to mingle. The whole time, Lucci suffered through school, banished from the clique of Priya, Monique, and Susan. And to her own surprise, Lucci found herself yearning for a second chance with those three. Sure, they'd been terrible to her, but when she spied them in the school cafeteria, hunched together gleefully, she couldn't help but feel a tug in her gut. She'd see them out in the schoolyard clumped together like socks that just come out the dryer, and she'd want to go and talk with them again. Most of the time, she found herself sitting alone at the other end of the yard, too close to the boys who were busy acting like wild beasts, screaming and wrestling and bashing at one another. At least they had each other. Lucci had no one. Lucci's life went on like this for a month and a half, at school and at home, alone on the weekends. Her mother did all she could that could help, offered to take her out to the movies or even go outside and play in the winter snow, but those offers only made Lucci feel more pathetic. It was starting to look like her best friend was her mother. It was so embarrassing. At the end of 2 months, Sonny had returned to her apartment, but was still keeping Cap from Lucci. Lucci couldn't understand why. I want Sonny to come over, Lucci complained one evening in late December as she and her mother ate dinner. You promised I could have a party with her. She's still too sick. You promised she back and I want to see her. Please, Mom. For dessert, they ate some more of the birthday cake. Her mother had pointed out that two girls couldn't eat the whole thing alone. Why let the rest go to waste? Since the failed party, Lucci and her mother had been slowly trimming it down. As they debated the issue, Lucci's mother cut herself a slice. Lucci had a little too. There wasn't much left. I'll ask her grandmother, Mom said. They ate at the kitchen table. And I don't want you there, Lucci added. Just me and Sonny. That's impossible. Mom said between bites. We're 12. That's old enough. Do you know what other girls are doing at 12? Lucci's mother shut her eyes and shook her head. Don't tell me. But Lucci pressed her case. I'm not a baby. I walk to school alone. I do my own dishes and my laundry. I can take care of myself. And Sonny, if something bad happened, I'll call your cell phone. Lucci pleaded. Really, she was embarrassed by her mother, but she couldn't say that out loud. It would hurt her feelings. Just let us have the apartment for a little, Lucci said. I want to show her my Christmas presents. Mom finished a piece of ice cream cake, wiped her face with a paper napkin. Then she reached over and wiped Lucci's face, too. Lucci didn't resist the touch. How long, Mom finally asked. 4 hours, Lucci said. 2 hours. Lucci could tell there'd be no further negotiation, and she'd gotten so much already. 2 hours, she agreed, and she felt confident about what she said. What bad things could really happen in so little time? Sonny and Lucci's play date was made through go-betweens, Lucci's mother and Sonny's grandmother. Sonny would come down to Lucci's second try at the 12th birthday party on a Saturday, the last in December. Lucci had done a little better than normal with gifts that year because her mother felt so bad that Lucci had spent so much time alone, waiting on her sick friend. Lucci even got a new bike, no trainer wheels, and emerald green, just like her dress had been. It was her favorite color. Lucci knew that Sonny's grandmother would likely tackle the pair before she let her sick granddaughter ride around on the sidewalk. But Lucci and Sonny could pedal the bike back and forth in the living room. The night before, she and her mother had rearranged the furniture in the living room. They pushed the dining table against the wall, moved the coffee table from in front of the sofa, and turned the living room into one 20-foot long carpeted track. Lucci couldn't wait to see Sonny hold the handlebars. And best of all, she and Sonny were going to be in the apartment alone for 2 hours. A fact that hadn't been shared with Sonny's grandmother. If it had, Sonny's grandmother would have been perched right there in the living room all afternoon, scowling while she watched everything, and what the hell kind of fun would that be? Lucci's mother was in the bathroom getting prepared to go out with Louis. Lucci found her in the front of the bathroom sink and watched her perched at the threshold. "Louis is late," Lucci said. "Your brother always is," her mother said absently. She and Lucci were the primary team these days, and Louis was like an alternate member. He was 10 years older than Lucci and had moved out of the apartment to Brooklyn when she was 7. She loved him but didn't really know him anymore. Lucci's mother, of course, had a different relationship with Louis. She had wrestled and cajoled him into seeing her that day. He didn't want to come to Queens, but their mother could be persistent. She'd been pestering him to come for months now. "Now don't tell Louis where I'm taking him, right?" Her mother stopped applying her foundation and looked Lucci directly. "Debt counseling," Lucci said, though she didn't know what that meant. "I'm taking him to lunch," Lucci's mother instructed, "because I miss him." Lucci and her mother nodded conspiratorially. Then mother brushed Lucci back out the door. She grabbed the door handle and pushed the door. "Mom needs to be alone in here for a few minutes." Lucci stepped further back and the door shut, and she heard the sound of her mother settling down on the toilet. That's terrible. Lucci walked away from the bathroom and back into the living room. She went to the front door. She was too short to see through the peephole yet. They kept a footstool right by the door for this reason. Lucci pulled it over, stepped up, and peeked out into the hall. Louis was late, but so was Sonny. Lucci wore a pair of jeans and a thin green sweater. Her kicks were bright white Keds. Her mother had done her hair that morning, tight little box braids. It was her sporty look. Even though Lucci knew Sonny would never make fun of her, she was too embarrassed to try showing off the green gown again. Lucci checked on the bike, parked at the far end of the living room. She rifled through a small stack of board games her mother had set out on the dining room table. Life, Sorry, and Risk. The last one was left over from her brother's days in the apartment. She set a pillow and a blanket on the couch just in case Sonny would need to lie down at some point. She left the living room and went to the kitchen. She opened the freezer and found what was left of her birthday cake. Over the last 2 months, bit by bit, she and her mother had to really chop that cake down. Cookie Puss wasn't looking so good. She and her mother had eaten his sugar cone nose, his ice cream chin and cheeks, and all that was left was his big eyes. The eye was really just a big flying saucer ice cream sandwich. Lucci had guarded this last piece fiercely for the last few weeks. It was for Sonny and no one else. She took it out of the freezer and out of the box. She set it on the plate and put the plate on the kitchen counter. She wanted the ice cream to be soft enough that even Sonny could get it down. Sometimes she had trouble with solid foods. As she set the plate on the kitchen table, she heard a clunking sound outside the kitchen window. Something small and falling down the fire escape. She knew what that sound meant. She heard it again. She watched the window and saw a penny careening down. It pinged against the fire escape and slipped through the grating and fell to the third floor below. She didn't need to wait for a third penny to drop. Lucci smiled and ran to the kitchen window, pulled open the security gate, lifted the cash, and peeked her head out. She saw a small hand dangling out the window right above her own. Sonny! The hand went back inside the apartment slowly. Lucci looked over her shoulder for her mother, but her mother was still in the bathroom. She looked out the window for a second time, and the small hand was shaking slightly, holding another penny. The slim fingers parted, and the penny fell. Lucci reached out to try to catch the penny, but it hit the floor of her fire escape, landing the shot off wildly, then fell 4 stories down to the ground. If it had been anything much heavier than a penny, or like an egg, a little girl, it would have cracked in two. Lucci spoke in a tense whisper. I'm coming. Then Lucci climbed out the window. Children who grew up in the suburbs learn to climb trees. Kids from Queens learned fire escapes. In the summer, Lucci's fire escape was like a rusty balcony. If the apartment felt too warm, she'd sneak out on the fire escape to cool down. Some nights she even slept out there, calling it the Queens camping trip. Even now, in late December, with the dusting of snow on each step, she gripped the handrail and climbed fast. The hardest thing to take was the cold. By the time she made it to the 5th floor, only 1 flight up, she was shivering. But when she reached the landing of the floor above hers, she forgot about the chill and being so high up. There in the window, framed like a potato, sat Soul Swami. Sonny, Lucci whispered. Her best friend looked so tiny. Or had Lucci just grown bigger? Sonny's song had always been small for her age. If she and Lucci hadn't lived only 1 floor apart, Lucci likely would have never noticed the kid. Would have assumed Sonny was 2 grades behind her, and therefore not friendship material. But when Lucci and her mother would head downstairs in the elevator each morning, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, Sonny and her uncommunicative grandmother would be in the elevator too. They would walk the same route all the way to PS 120, and at a certain point, the 2 girls began to talk to each other, even if the adults didn't. They lived in 2 different buildings, or even on 2 different sides of the building. They probably wouldn't have met. Sometimes Lucci couldn't believe the good luck of it. But Lucci had a hard time thinking of good luck just now. Sonny sat in a chair in the kitchen, her hands resting on the windowsill, and her skin seemed translucent. Veins were visible, tracing their way across the backs of her hand all the way to the knuckles. The veins weren't even blue, but a deep dark gray, the color of weight cement. Sonny's face had become so fat and pale that her small nose, her tiny mouth, seemed to be floating in a bowl of custard. Her eyelids were red and puffy. The one touch of liveliness was a blue knit cap that she wore pulled down to her eyebrows. It was the blue of a bright sky, and attached to the top by 2 short strings were a pair of pom-poms. They sat on her head like mouse ears. They were the kind of gift someone might give someone, make a sick child feel whimsical, to graft youth back into your decaying body. You look great, Lucci lied. Sonny didn't speak, just started. Lucci could hear Sonny's breathing, raspy and weak. Sonny inhaled deeply 3 times before she could gather the strength to respond. This is what I look like, Sonny said as she grabbed the top of the cap with an almost angry determination and yanked it off her head. Sonny's hair had become so thin Lucci could see her scalp, almost pale green like honeydew melon. It was like she was fading right before Lucci's eyes. Even at 12 years old, Lucci knew not to betray her sadness. She held her face still as best she could. She smiled weakly. Your pajamas are cute, she offered. The long-sleeved top of Sonny's outfit was purple with a lime collar and cuffs. There was a giant green electric guitar next to the 4 Next to that, 4 big pink letters, ROCK. The pajama bottoms were pink, with that same image printed all over them in a much smaller size. The green electric guitar and the word rock running up and down her legs. The ankles had lime cuffs too. The pajamas were not cute, and they both knew it. Under different circumstances, they would have laughed about them, but not right then. Welcome back, Lucci said, just to change the subject. And though she didn't want to do it, she looked away from her friend because she was afraid she might cry. When Lucci looked back, that Sonny had put the blue cap back on. She pulled her hands back inside the window, and they were in her lap. She was looking down at those hands, and her face wore a look of serious concentration. One of her hands was closed in a fist. Sonny tried to lift it, but each time she did, the hand trembled, and a moment later fell into her lap. Lucci watched this happen twice. Sonny's shoulders heaved now. She was wearing herself out just trying to do this simple thing, just trying to lift her hand. She was supposed to be getting better, but who had actually told Lucci that? Before Sonny got sick, she had a way of looking at people. She set her lips tight and squinted her eyes and sort of leaned forward like she was about to jump right on their heads and stomp them. It made her look like the tiniest gangster ever. It intimidated everyone except her grandmother. One time, maybe 4 years back, the two of them had been in Flushing Meadow Park and wandered into one of the meadows so they can kick off their shoes and walk in the summer grass. They were having a pretty good time when suddenly the beast came galloping right at them. It was just a dog, a Doberman Pinscher, but to those girls it might as well have been a horse, and it shot straight toward them. The owner was nowhere to be seen. The thing was coming for them, and it started barking, and Lucci cried right there. She thought it was going to tear their heads off. As the dog got closer, its face, with those high pointy ears and long narrow snout, looked downright demonic. Even worse, when it bared its teeth, Lucci was busy looking for her mother or Sonny's grandmother. Where had they wandered off to? But Sonny bore down in the gangster pose, and no lie, the girl growled at the dog. And do you know the dog actually changed direction? It bounded away from them. Sonny had scared it off. The whole time she ain't even shivered. As far as Lucci was concerned, Sonny saved her life that day. So how could the hero in the park be the invalid here now? The one who couldn't even lift her hand out of her lap. Finally, Lucci leaned into the window and held Sonny's hand and lifted it for her. Relieved, Sonny opened her fingers. I got something for us, she said. 3 brittle-looking twisted paper sat in Sonny's palm. I took these from my grandmother, Sonny said. Take them. Lucci snapped them with a free hand, then let Sonny's hand go. It immediately dropped as if it weighed 1,000 pounds and landed in her lap again. Sonny reached to a cup of water sitting on the kitchen table inside of her apartment. She grabbed the plastic cup, inhaled deeply, and lifted her lips. She sipped twice. The skin on Sonny's neck was so thin, it was as if Lucci could actually see the water sliding down the inside of her best friend's throat. Lucci turned away fast. She looked at her own palm. All 3 little white sticks. They weren't much bigger than toothpicks. Chinese cigarettes, Sonny said. As she set the cup back down, almost out of breath from action, hand rolled another breath. Strong stuff. Cigarettes? It took a moment before Lucci could speak. I thought we could ride my bike inside the apartment, she said. Her voice sounded as small as her planned rebellion. Somewhere inside the apartment, a woman's voice called out in Cantonese. Sonny's grandmother. Sonny looked over his shoulder, then back at Lucci. That move tired Sonny out too. She winced and breathed heavily, and Lucci just couldn't believe that this was Sonny. I'm going to sneak a lighter with me, Sonny said, but my grandmother would find these cigarettes if I tried to take them down. She'd probably smell them or something. You hold on to them. I'll be down in a couple of minutes. Lucci closed her hand around the cigarettes, and the cold wind rocked her as she passed and squatted on the fire escape. They were at eye level. I don't want to do this, Lucci whispered, shaking her hand. I saved you some cake. Sonny's mouth squeezed tight, and her eyes closed. She kept them closed when she spoke again. I just want to do something fun with you one more time. She opened her eyes and looked at Lucci directly, just in case. Lucci almost jumped through the window, almost tackled her sixth friend. In case what? She barked. She felt agony suddenly, didn't quite know why. In case what? Sonny's eyes flared open. My grandmother's going to hear you, she wheezed. You coming over? Okay, cool. You coming over for my birthday party, Lucci said. Sounded like she was giving orders. That's why you coming over. Okay, Sonny said quietly. She watched Lucci a moment, then opened her mouth to say one more thing. But Lucci raised that fist that held the cigarettes like she'd rather punch this sick kid than hear what Sonny had to say. So Sonny didn't say anything. Sonny reached up and pulled at the kitchen window, shut, but she couldn't do it. She didn't have the strength left. She tired herself out opening the window minutes ago. Lucci stuffed the 3 cigarettes into her pockets, then grabbed the bottom of the window and pulled it down. Sonny waved at Lucci through the window pane. Just then, Sonny looked like a specimen slide under a microscope. Then she managed to slide the security gate shut, and Lucci couldn't see her at all anymore. Lucci crossed her arms and shivered from the cold. She stood at her full height again at the fire escape. 5 floors below, few kids and adults walked along the sidewalk, but none of them looked up. She watched them. Then she looked above her. The building had 6 floors. Lucci lived in 4D, and Sonny lived in 5D, but no one lived in 6D as long as Lucci had been alive. Sometimes boys in the building went onto the roof in groups, and she didn't have any idea what they did up there, but the boys, reckless and fearless and stupid sometimes, even the boys never messed with apartment 6D. Lucci crept down the fire escape stairs, slid back into her apartment. She shut the window, closed and locked the security gate. Just as she heard the toilet flush in the bathroom. Right after that, her mother walked into the kitchen. Don't go in there for a little ride, her mother said, smiling bashfully. Then she crossed her arm. Why is it so cold in here? But Lucci wouldn't have to explain because the front door clicked, keys in the lock. Her brother had arrived. Tell Louis I need 10 more minutes to get ready. Mom called and ran into her bedroom. All right, family. We'll pick up, it's interesting. With a friend. That's a wild story. But we will pick up next week. Definitely hope you have a fantastic week. Oh, shoot. Hope to see you Tuesday, where we will continue our discussion on generational curses. If you can't make it Tuesday, I hope to see you back here Thursday for another book club, as we will continue reading Lucretia and the Kroons. I appreciate you as always, family, and have a great one.